Guys, let's continue with the yesterday's topic on having clearly qualifiable uh, criterion for international uh, aggression. Remember, yesterday I said you have to satisfy four qualifications. The first one is I was saying that the consistent. I think it's probably better to change it to persistent. The second is the intentional. The third one is systematic. The number four is probably organized. But then, I after this, usually when I have big ideas, I always run through at least two AI chatbot. I really love it because it's better, much better than human referees because they give you because first of all they possess so much information from so many sources, so it's easy for them to find out whether your idea is new or repetition of the existing ideas. And then secondly, they give you many more references, so it's much better than the human referees. Which basically it's almost inevitably to have the HR bias. They look at your resumes, they find out where you are, have you done it anything before, instead of just looking at the idea itself and give you the objective evaluation of this. So this time I found that I run through the idea, the first idea of uh, what triggered a defensive reaction by the four criterion. And then I just found out that almost all the three AI chatbot that I used, Gemini and Perplexity and ChatGPT, they all showed that pretty much initially pretty negative because their thinking is still like existing international law, and then they always say that yours is um, it's a kind of a deviation from the existing legal international legal framework. However, here is the problem that that's exactly where my the value of my ideas coming out, because the current system overemphasizing the wars and the peacekeeping. They emphasize the warfare and try to avoid the warfare, how to keep the peace, and then, but they did not have the international mitigation, kind of an international tort law framework in mind. That's exactly what I want to add to it. So I'm not, I don't want to brag it, but I really think it's a groundbreaking, game-changing, paradigm-shifting ideas that the current system just don't have, simply don't have. So here is the first thing that they can trigger the self-defense for uh, alleged victim of countries by aggressor countries. Okay, if they satisfy the criteria of the four qualifications, then they can. But what exactly that that doesn't mean that countries, the victim countries, can have the right to go straight to the military conflict, to the war. That's what it's the response that I got from the three AI platforms, the chatbot. They always come back with the same thing, that because the current international law specifically said armed attack, then that will be triggering the defensive responses. But what I have in mind is not armed, you know, self-defense in the military. I'm strictly talking about international mitigations, international mediators to have that something, the due process in mind. Okay, that's why I'm gonna say this. We need to have this framework to add to the existing warfare, peacekeeping mindset, and then it's a severe underuse of the mitigation process. Okay. I want to turn this into more like a tort law. You know what is tort law? Tort law is not about the whether lock somebody up in the jail, but it's more like make the victim whole, the people suffering from the welfare loss. That's the second key idea that I'll be talking about is welfare loss. Okay, so the total law is about the compensating. It's not mostly the civil laws. It's not the criminal laws. Okay, we're talking about negligence. We talk about the unintentional harm, right? But the goal for the victim is to be compensated, so to make them whole. By the way, let's look at the Venezuela case. I think Trump may have a strong case. Obviously, it depends on the law, depends on the court, it depends on the jury. Because I'm glad that they will have a jury on duty, then they will hearing the evidence. I think given my guess would be, don't quote me on this, but my guess is that the Latin American dictators, they have been taking advantage of the U.S. being lenient to them for years. So they may actually intentionally, persistently, systematically, and organizedly uh, launch some drug trafficking. And even, if Trump is right that some criminals, they release some criminals from the country jail and then send them to the U.S. That will for the only purpose of harming and creating a crisis for the U.S. because they hate the U.S. so much, right? So if that case, if we can, this kind of activity, like by the Venezuela government, led by Maduro and his wife. This would not covered by the armed attack because Venezuela, with the military just too weak, they know they can't match the U.S. military, so they had not, and will unlikely to launch a military armed attack against the U.S. However, this kind of a hostile activities, as long as they are intentional, systematical, persistent, organized, U.S. has the right to issue the self-defense, take the self-defense actions. Okay, what exactly action? I leave that to the third point of my framework. So let's just stop here.